Some love stories are not broken by betrayal or distance, but by stubborn promises that refuse to bend. This story does not begin with drama or confession. It begins quietly in childhood, where a boy and a girl grew up side by side. They shared the same streets, the same schools, and the same ordinary days. From an early age, their bond felt different. They did not need constant conversation or grand gestures. A simple glance, a soft smile, or sitting together in silence was enough. Even before they understood what love truly meant, their hearts had already chosen each other. As children, they spent countless hours together, unaware that time was shaping their future. While friendships around them changed and faded, their presence in each other's lives remained constant. They spoke about the future with innocent confidence, believing that growing up would naturally lead them to marriage. In their minds, love was simple. If two people truly belonged together, the world would eventually accept it. Without realizing it, this belief slowly turned into a stubborn promise that would follow them for the rest of their lives. As the years passed and childhood turned into adolescence, innocence began to fade. They became aware of society, family expectations, and unspoken rules. Love was no longer just a feeling, it was something that needed permission. Yet instead of adjusting, both of them held on even tighter to their promise. They refused to imagine a future with anyone else. The boy rejected every suggestion of marriage, and the girl remained firm, repeating the same words with quiet determination. She would marry only him.
Ow.
Their love did not rely on constant communication. As responsibilities increased, their contact became limited. Days passed without messages, weeks without meetings, and sometimes months without seeing each other. Still, distance did not weaken their bond. Instead, it strengthened their stubborn belief that true love did not need daily reassurance. Waiting became proof of loyalty, and silence became a test of devotion. Slowly, without realizing it, this stubborn devotion began to shape their entire lives. Every decision, every refusal, and every sacrifice revolved around the same idea. Marriage would only happen if it happened with each other. They did not notice time moving forward. While the world around them changed, they remained tied to a promise made long ago. This was no longer just a love story. It was the beginning of a lifetime spent waiting. When love met tradition, stubborn hearts chose waiting over letting go. As they stepped fully into adulthood, reality began to press harder than ever before. Families started having serious conversations about marriage, reputation, and social standing. For their parents, love was secondary. Stability and tradition mattered more. The boy's family wanted a match that suited their expectations, while the girl's family feared society's judgment. What once seemed like a harmless childhood bond was now viewed as a problem that needed to be erased. Both families made their position clear: this marriage would never happen. Meetings turned into arguments, and hope slowly turned into tension. The boy tried to explain, not with anger but with quiet insistence. He refused every proposal brought before him, calmly repeating the same answer each time. The girl, too, stood firm in her refusal. She listened to advice, warnings, and emotional pressure, yet her response never changed. Her heart had already made its choice long ago. As resistance grew, contact between them became even more limited. Family restrictions, responsibilities, and fear of conflict pushed them further apart. They were no longer free to meet or talk openly, yet even in separation, neither of them moved on. Other people entered their lives, showing interest, offering companionship, even proposing marriage, but both remained unmoved. To them, choosing someone else felt like betrayal, not just of the other person, but of the promise they had carried since childhood. However, showed no mercy. Years passed quietly, unnoticed, marked only by birthdays and unfulfilled expectations. Friends married, families celebrated, and life moved forward for everyone else. Still, they waited. Each passing year strengthened their belief that patience was proof of love. They convinced themselves that endurance would one day be rewarded, unaware that time was slowly turning hope into habit. What they didn't realize was that stubborn love, when left unresolved, can become a silent prison. By refusing to let go and refusing to compromise, they were standing still while life continued without them. Yet in their hearts, they felt proud. proud of their loyalty, proud of their patience, and proud of a love that refused to bow to pressure. They believed that staying true to each other was worth every sacrifice, even if the cost was their own future. As time passed, waiting stopped feeling like hope and slowly became a habit. Years continued to move forward, quietly and without warning. The boy and the girl entered the phase of life where youth begins to fade and responsibilities take its place. Their routines became heavier, their circles smaller, and their silence longer. What once felt like patient waiting now blended into everyday life. They no longer counted the years, simply lived them, still holding on to the same belief they had carried for so long. Family pressure did not disappear, instead it changed its form. There were fewer arguments, fewer emotional confrontations, but more silent expectations. Parents stopped insisting and started assuming. They believed time itself would solve the problem. Yet neither the boy nor the girl gave in. The boy continued to refuse marriage calmly, without explanation. The girl remained equally firm, choosing loneliness over a union she did not want. Their contact became rare, almost formal. Sometimes months passed without a single conversation. Still, neither reached out to anyone else. They had learned to live with absence. Waiting no longer felt heavy, it felt familiar. They convinced themselves that if they had waited this long, a little more time would not matter. In their minds, love was proven not by closeness but by endurance. Around them, life moved forward relentlessly. Younger relatives married, children were born. Celebrations came and went. Each event served as a quiet reminder of what they did not have. Yet neither spoke about regret. They told themselves that compromise would mean losing everything they had stood for. Staying true to their promise felt more important than the happiness everyone else seemed to find. Without realizing it, their identities became tied to waiting. They were no longer just a man and a woman in love. They were people defined by refusal. Love had become a principle, not an experience. And though they still believed in their choice, a subtle emptiness began to settle in, not loud enough to break them, but deep enough to stay. Over the years, love stayed the same, but life slowly moved on without it. As time passed, they both began to age, quietly and separately. The vibrant energy of youth was gone, and the dreams they once held with such confidence now felt like distant memories. The lines on their faces told stories of time, and their days fell into predictable, lonely routines. At the core of their story never changed. He remained unmarried, and she stayed alone. What was once a shocking decision had now become an accepted, almost inevitable, fate in the eyes of others. Their families eventually stopped trying to intervene. Constant conversations about marriage and settling down slowly faded, replaced by a worried silence. Relatives would whisper their concerns and neighbors would speculate, but no one dared to confront them directly anymore. It was as if the world had given up on them long before they had given up on each other. They were seen as stubborn, yes, but also as two souls who simply could not be moved. Time hadn't softened their resolve. It had only cemented it, making their separate lives a permanent fixture. When they did happen to cross paths, their interactions were calm and almost distant. The fire was gone. There was no urgency, no passionate plea, no expectation of what could be. There was only a deep, quiet familiarity. They spoke like two people who had shared an entire lifetime together, without actually living a single day of it, side by side. There was a strange comfort in that familiarity, but it was shadowed by a quiet sadness that neither of them ever acknowledged out loud. The love was still there, a constant presence, but it had learned to exist without hope, without a future. Loneliness became their most constant companion. Even when surrounded by people in crowded rooms filled with laughter, they felt a profound sense of separation. Watching other couples grow old together, sharing inside jokes and gentle touches, forced them to confront a truth they rarely spoke about. Life doesn't pause for promises, no matter how deeply they are felt. Yet remarkably, neither ever blamed the other. In their own minds, this was the outcome of their own choices, not a betrayal. But deep inside, in the quietest moments, questions began to surface. They were never spoken aloud, not even fully formed into coherent thoughts, but they were there nonetheless. What if things had been different? What if one of them had compromised? What if they had fought for it just a little bit harder? These thoughts would come and go like ghosts in the night. Never strong enough to inspire action, but always strong enough to leave a lingering ache. Love was still the foundation of it all, but time had reshaped it into something quiet, heavy, and completely irreversible. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. Sometimes love is strongest when it is quiet and unseen, even as life passes by. By now, the boy and the girl had become accustomed to a life of waiting. Their stubborn promise had survived years, but it had also shaped the way they saw the world. Every decision they made was influenced by it. Friends married, siblings had children, and neighbors celebrated milestones. Yet they remained apart from it all, living in the quiet shadow of their own devotion. Even as middle age approached, neither wavered. They had opportunities to move on, to start new lives, yet both refused. The boy rejected potential marriages calmly, without argument. The girl, too, held her ground, showing the same quiet determination that had defined her since childhood. They were no longer young, but their hearts remained immovable. Love for them had become principle as much as feeling. Distance and routine had made them almost strangers to each other in day-to-day life. Meetings were rare, words were few, and silence filled the gaps. But each small encounter reminded them of everything they had shared. A glance across a room, a brief conversation, a shared memory, these became their entire connection. Life around them changed, but the core of their bond remained untouched. Inside, they were aware that the world might never understand them. Relatives whispered about wasted years, friends questioned their choices, and society labeled them stubborn or foolish. Yet none of this mattered. Their loyalty to each other had become stronger than the need for approval or companionship. In their hearts, enduring love was worth the cost of loneliness, the cost of years spent waiting. As days turned into months, and months into years, their stubborn devotion became both a comfort and a burden. Comfort because they had stayed true to their promise. Burden because time was slipping away, and the life they had imagined together remained unfulfilled. And still, they waited, silently, faithfully, refusing to compromise. Years can pass, but stubborn hearts never forget the promises they once made. By now, the boy and the girl were well into the later stages of adulthood. Their hair had grayed, their steps slowed, and their lives were marked by routine. Yet inside, the same quiet love remained. Time had not weakened their bond. It had only made it more solemn, more serious. What once was playful now carried a weight of decades, a weight neither of them could release. Their world had grown smaller. Friends had families, siblings had lives of their own, and neighbors had moved on. Yet they still clung to each other in thought, even when contact was rare. Letters, calls, and occasional meetings were all that connected them. But each one carried the weight of years unspoken. Every word mattered, every glance was remembered, and every pause held meaning beyond expression. Families no longer pushed or interfered, had grown used to the reality of a stubborn love that refused to yield. Yet this acceptance did not lessen the challenges. Life's responsibilities, health concerns, and the inevitability of aging pressed on both of them. They carried a silent strength, supporting each other emotionally across the distance, even when society ignored them. Despite the solitude and missed opportunities, neither regretted their choice. Their love was not defined by outward success or validation, but by faithfulness to a promise. Each day spent waiting was a day lived according to the rules they had set for themselves. To them, compromise was never an option. Loyalty was a higher priority than comfort, companionship, or recognition. In quiet moments, they reflected on the years gone by. Memories of youth, whispered promises, and shared laughter played in their minds like old photographs. And though they had lived much of their lives apart, their hearts remained connected. Stubbornness had shaped their lives, yes, but it had also preserved something rare, a love that endured beyond time, beyond expectation, beyond understanding. By now, both the boy and the girl were well into old age. The vibrant energy of youth had faded, leaving behind calm routines and slow steps. Yet their hearts still carried the same devotion they had nurtured for decades, or every morning, every simple task. Every day reminded them of the other's presence in their lives, even if that presence was felt more in memory than in reality. Life had made them resilient. They had faced pressures, expectations, and the constant push to conform. But their stubborn hearts never wavered. While everyone else moved forward with families, careers, and social obligations, they remained loyal to the promise they had made in childhood. Love for them had never been about convenience or comfort. It was about fidelity to the one person who mattered most. Interactions between them became rare, yet meaningful. A shared glance at a family gathering, a brief conversation during a festival, a fleeting smile across a room, these small moments carried the weight of decades. They no longer needed long conversations or constant reminders. Their connection had grown so deep that silence itself spoke volumes. Even as loneliness crept into their daily lives, it did not diminish their commitment. Friends and relatives often questioned their choices, suggesting it was time to move on, yet they both remained unmoved. Every suggestion, every reminder of what they were missing, only reinforced their resolve. In their minds, staying true to each other was the only meaningful way to live. As they reflected on the years that had passed, they realized something profound. Their stubbornness had not been a flaw. It had been the force that preserved their love through time, distance, and circumstance. They understood that while life had not allowed them to be together fully, the loyalty and devotion they had maintained was a rare and enduring testament to the power of true love. After a lifetime of waiting, love finally found its moment, proving that devotion never truly fades. In the final years of their lives, the boy and the girl faced the reality that time was no longer on their side. Their parents had long passed, family pressures had eased, and the world around them had shifted. All that remained was the bond they had carried for decades, quiet, unyielding, and patiently enduring. For the first time, the obstacles that had kept them apart seemed smaller compared to the love they had preserved through the years. One day, after decades of waiting and silent devotion, they were finally able to be together in the way they had always dreamed. There were no dramatic confessions or grand gestures, only the quiet fulfillment of a promise that had been kept for a lifetime. The stubbornness that had once seemed like a barrier became the very thing that allowed their love to survive against all odds. Their hearts, though aged and weathered, recognized each other instantly. Friends and relatives were astonished. They could not understand how these two, who had waited so long and faced so many obstacles, could finally unite. Yet for the boy and the girl, there was no surprise, only a quiet satisfaction. The years of endurance, patience, and unwavering loyalty had led to this moment. They had chosen each other, and after everything, nothing else mattered. In the quiet moments that followed, they reflected on their journey. The laughter, the silence, the waiting, the small gestures, and the steadfast promise had all shaped a love that was extraordinary precisely because it had endured. Life had not been easy, but it had been theirs, lived fully in the presence of each other's heart, even when separated by circumstance. As they held each other's hands, a lifetime of love came together in a single moment. Their story, which had begun in childhood and endured through youth, adulthood, and old age, reached its quiet yet powerful conclusion. It was a testament to stubborn hearts' unwavering devotion, and a love that could not be broken, a love that had waited patiently for decades and at last was allowed to flourish.